Hi all, welcome to this conversation on AI for all in India, leveraging AI across sectors and its limitless possibilities. The interesting thing about that topic is that we do have a panel that is representative across sectors today, right? We've got Sarang Sharma, who is product head at Practo. We've got Ramesh Kumar, who is VP Engineering at Jumbotail. We've got Vaibhav Khandelwal, who's co-founder and CTO at Shadowfax. We've got Vinay Rai, who is EVP Engineering at Netradyne, and we've got Abhimanyu Saxena, who's co-founder at Scalar. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you here to this conversation. I'll just jump right in to the first question, which is essentially on, what does AI for all mean to each one of you? Abhimanyu, why don't you go for it first?
No, I think the recent advances that we have witnessed in last year or so, it's I think pretty clear to everyone now that it's not just a passing fad or a passing wave that will disappear, but it's here and it's here for good. Lot of capabilities that existed where it was impossible to the scalability of the solutions which were dependent on humans. If not all, many of them could be delivered by the machine today. If I specifically talk from the domain that we come from, education, I think we see huge impact opportunity here. If I talk about, say, for centuries or for the millennia, the most elite, let's say the kings or the queens or the most richest of the people, they would often have an individual tutor who is best in the field tutoring their kids for any subject they want to learn. But of course, that's not a luxury that 99.9% of the people in the world can afford. AI definitely gives us capability, and we are already building solutions where we already see early evidences that a very hyper-personalized, very individual learning path and feedback path as well could be created using AI.
Right.
And fundamentally, the access to quality education is root of growth of any society. So, at least in our domain, we do see that exceptionally high quality of education would be accessible to everyone through AI.
Wonderful.
Actually, very nicely set up by Abhimanyu. So I think there are two ways, two parts of the problem probably. One is AI for all, in the sense that can all people benefit from AI in terms of products that they consume, and the second one is everyone AI aware, so to say, right? So I think Abhimanyu addressed first, but largely the second part as well. But the first part is something where AI is already in use in many ways. Talking about Netradyne specifically, for example, we are into road safety. We have been using AI for last 9-10 years to make roads safer, and so clearly it is good for everyone. So it's in some sense AI for all. A lot of OEM manufacturers, car manufacturers and all are building all of these technologies into their vehicles as well. So in that sense, again, it's AI for all. As consumers, for example, if we are looking at Netflix or even ChatGPT, of course, has come in the latest part of the AI, right? All of those are making it easy for everyone to consume AI and in fact benefit directly from them. So I'm 100% with Abhimanyu, as in it's definitely not a passing fad. It is something that is going to stay. I think typically, however, any technology goes through certain cycle. There is this law called Amara's law. There was a scientist, so he envisioned this like several years ago, decades ago. When a new technology comes in, there's a lot of hype. A lot of people expect it to do a lot of things in a very short period of time. So typically you overestimate the impact that it can have in the short term and underestimate the impact that it can have in the long term. So right now, especially talking about Gen AI, because a lot of people, of course, using AI and Gen AI interchangeably nowadays, I believe that AI is going to be there definitely. Gen AI particularly is in that phase right now where we are expecting a lot of things to get solved overnight. It's not going to happen in my view, but if you stretch your timelines a little bit, few years to 10 years to 20 years, the impact is going to be immense.
Vaibhav?
See, with respect to AI for all, I would want to point it in maybe the geographical context of a country like India. I think as a country with a wide variety of population that we have, with a wide variety of problem statements that we have, AI as a tool is something that can assist us in leapfrogging some of these problem statements as compared to other developed nations. A parallel is quite similar in the way, for example, UPI allowed us to leapfrog into a digitized payment ecosystem, wherein now even a smaller merchant is capable enough of getting or receiving payments digitally. Similarly, AI solutions in varied ways, be it in education as highlighted earlier, or be it in road safety, or even in the employment part of it, for the delivery partners, for the end customers, getting the shipments quickly. All these are varied avenues where some of our fundamental problems could be solved. Just an example, one of the things that we have been working on, so we all know that the underlying location infrastructure for a country like India is broken. So we may be staying in a pin code X, but an entire city like Gurgaon may be just 2 pin codes only. Our neighboring pin code X could be X plus 100 as well. So these fundamental problems create a disparity in navigating through the logistical problem statements. But if utilized properly from an historical data perspective, AI is capable of deciphering the underlying patterns to better navigate those addresses and to build a better mapping layer as well. So again, the examples are multifold, but what I would suggest, or maybe the sense that I get from AI for all, is something that we should look for those solutions which could impact the larger population density in a country like India.
Ramesh?
So, for AI is a solution, but if I just take a step back, for every software or product, right, the holy grail is that for every user you want to give the best possible experience, right? And every user is very different, and that is defined by different parameters. I can always segment them by saying that people who are urban, rural, or let us say higher consumers, or let us say people who do not consume and consume less. But there are some variables that we know. As the variables keep on increasing, that's what hyper-personalization when we're talking about basically as well, right? So previously there are two gaps. One thing is expertise, second thing is cost, right? So both of them kept on coming down, and that is what actually is changing the overall AI landscape as well, right? So, and as soon as that is happening, every product will try to tune its behavior towards the user and their needs and then their behaviors. A simple example being that we launched something in Odisha and as a route planning algorithm, and we realized that overall city sleeps in the afternoon. Right? So this is a very broad variable. But if you just think about it, right, for every person there is a different nuances and variables. How can we understand and help user better? And then how can we make them more efficient is where AI for all is going to be. Where treating everybody as uniquely, not as all. That is where I think AI for all will win.
Lovely. Sarang?
Yeah, so I think any technology, when you say is that technology that impacts everyone or all, I mean, we have to see whether it is significantly improving their life and then for across strata, across society, right? Rich, poor, urban, rural, for all kinds of people, it should be happening. So if you look at it, there are very few technologies which have reached that level in history, right? So maybe electricity might be one of those, maybe motorized vehicles might be one of those, right? Mobile phones certainly now will be there. AI, I think, has some way to go till it reaches that kind of point. But I think it has a lot of potential because we're just getting started. Right? And then of course, as some of the others pointed out, right, generative AI is something which has really created this excitement, but AI is something that has been around for quite some time. And when you look at least urban educated people, right, they've been using AI in some form or the other for a long time now. Right? So if you use Gmail, then it's powered with spam filters are powered by AI. If you use Facebook, long back, it started recognizing your face. That was powered by AI, right? Nowadays, if you use a smartphone camera, right, if you click a picture, it will automatically enhance it using AI. So a lot of people are already getting impacted by AI in ways in which they're not even aware of, and that's what technology which is pervasive. It's a hallmark of such a technology. I think the next level would be when it can really start revolutionizing the lives of not so fortunate people also, or people who are let's say rural background, etc. And that is when it will really become a technology for all.
Wonderful.
But I think it's definitely on the path.
Wonderful. What are some of the challenges that India faces in implementing AI for all at scale? Why don't you take it up?
Right. I think first, if I just double click on the AI and generative AI, right? And again, AI is not even something 10-year-old, but probably even 40, 50 years back they have been building on AI. But I think one big change that generative AI has brought about is that now you can feel the AI. Because if there is a chatbot that I can talk to and it can respond to me in very complex manner as well, or there's a video that can be generated. I was just today morning I was using an application where I can just give an interview to a machine and it's 99% it is undistinguishable from a human taking my interview.
It's humanized.
Right? It's humanized, right? So I think what generative AI has done is it has made it very, very like a common man can use it and feel it. That this is AI, this does look like AI, right? Now, what is stopping us? I think one is, and this is an opinion that many of my dear friends who have been working in the domain of AI at its forefront hold, that today we are lagging behind massively on what could be built on AI capabilities. If I look back at say 1996, we had internet. Internet was widespread. But the world was lagging behind on what could be built on internet. Amazon was just being built,
of course,
right? Or let's say your Facebook, etc., were not even built, which are very powerful services that got built on internet. I think right now it's a moment similar to that. That the core functionality, the core capability exists the way say internet existed in 1995. But a lot of applications that will be very powerful, that can very powerfully leverage this fundamental core, they do not exist today. They're being built. And as a matter of fact, some of the, say China, US, they're a little ahead of us in building the solutions on top of AI. Recently, I was trying out some of the Chinese apps, etc. Those kind of apps do not exist in India today. Of course, good thing about us is that we are generally very fast at building applications. So I think first step is that. Today, probably, I do strongly hope that just in 6 to 12 months, we would see a lot of real world use cases of generative AI being used, which are making an impact. And the second thing, which again I'm pretty optimistic about, is cost. Right? As of today, most AI solutions are pretty costly. Even if I talk about, say, the kind of compute power that it requires to generate the responses, it's not trivial. Again, however, kind of Moore's law kind of thing is existing even there, that hopefully every 6 months the cost is reducing to the half and to the half and to the half. Let's see how far that goes. But I think in a country like India, again in our context, all these solutions being very economical will also be a key.
Right. Vinay, would you like to add to that?
I think Abhimanyu covered it very in a lot of detail there. The thing is, in fact, the only thing I can add, I think, is right now we are at a stage where I think a lot of solutions are being imagined that their viability is under question, but that's very natural for any technology. So we are trying to artificially fit some problems, hoping that those will also get solved by generative AI. And I believe that in life or in any field, balance is important. And in fact, I don't know how many of you remember Rahim or Kabir. There's a saying where if you need to stitch a cloth, even just because you go to sew doesn't mean that you will be not using the sewing needle. Okay, you have to still. So right now we're in that stage where suddenly we got access to this sword, and of course it's a costly one. So, but again, that's the nature of experimentation. That's why startups exist and companies exist. many will try things and some will be right, some may not be right, some will lose a lot of money and shut down, but that's the natural phase of evolution. So we are at that stage where I suspect that it will be some time before we'll actually figure out what exactly do we want to and will it be able to solve. For example, there are hallucinations and stuff like that, right? Talking about Netradyne, I mean, use a little bit of an example. So people have been trying to build autonomous vehicles, right? This is not exactly about generative AI, but some use of AI, right? You have to be able to detect objects and whether that object is a human or another car or a tree or a box, like depending upon that.
The trolley problem.
Right. So your action will be different, right? While there has been a lot of advancement made in autonomous vehicles, but there's still autonomous vehicles are not all pervasive, and they have been there being built for 15 plus years now, right? We took a different approach. We said that we'll not try to build an autonomous car, but use the same technology to make humans drivers better. So the benefit is that we are not telling that humans you can give, you can be non-attentive and all, etc., etc. We are saying that you still be your driver, you still need to be in control, but we will be your coach. The product is built so that it coaches you into a better behavior and better behavior, right? So that's because the technology has some limitations, right? It may not detect every single situation, or also if you have to build that kind of a solution, it may take a long time and be very expensive, probably more expensive than the regular car itself today.
Of course.
So the idea for any business, in my view, is to use a technology to solve a real business problem in an economical way and be aware of the limitations. If you are aware of that, then you will build the right solutions. So that's the approach, for example, we have taken. I believe companies which will, or entrepreneurs who take that approach, understanding that there is limitation, not have a wishful thinking that it will solve all the hallucinations are not going to go away anytime soon.
Sure.
So you build solutions and products which understand that limitation and yet try to solve 99% problem probably. Right. So then you're more likely to be successful. So that's the path that I see forward, at least for short term.
Right. Vaibhav, what are how important is the collaboration between academia, industry, and the government, of course, in ensuring some of these things do happen the way it should happen?
That's a very important question. In fact, to your earlier question, the major challenge that I foresee is that, while as a country we speak a lot about AI, we as companies would also want to be projected as AI first companies. But somehow I do not get a sense that our students or our education institutes where the actual research happens, they are that AI empowered. So what this means is that we as a country transform into executors of already available AI solutions. And we need to understand that the demographics of our country or the need of our country, be it from the different demographics of people that are there. So just as a simple example, if you see, you want to build a chatbot. Now the open publicly available solutions will allow you to build an English chatbot, or you can get an Hindi chatbot. But the practical scenario in India is that people speak English. If you are going into absolute Shuddh Hindi, you may actually lose out on a wide variety of audience.
Of course.
Now, in order to build those localized solutions, you need a very strong research frame of mind. And if you are expecting companies to do that research, we are not there yet. Basis my understanding, companies are more focused on executing it, using the existing technology to implement a solution which could give them benefit and which is fair to them as well.
But is that where the government should come?
That's where I think, maybe from a government, from the resource availability perspective, on the other side of education part of it, the curriculum part of it. So, all these things are very important, be it on the vocational training part as well. So while we all talk about that we would want to do research, we would want to publish papers and patents, we also need to know that the new generation that is coming in, they at least know what is feasible and what is not feasible by AI. right? So at times companies, and correct me if I'm wrong, number of companies actually conduct their sessions for their internal teams just to educate them on the fact that, hey, this can actually be automated with AI. The other part that I feel as a challenge, and maybe where the academia or government and industry can work together, is on the adoption part of it. See, as a country, we are rich in humans, human labor that we are rich in. Whenever you introduce a new technology which could automate stuff, there is a sense of apprehension, and which we feel on in similar industries as well, which are human intensive. We feel that when we wish to improve their productivity via some automation, there is a sense of apprehension on their underlying job loss. Now, if on a fundamental level, if our vocational training or if our educational training can be structured in that way, that the new different kinds of jobs that would arise if the menial tasks are automated, then such apprehensions would be less. So it's kind of similar to the introduction of computers in the initial era.
Yeah.
There was a lot of apprehension, and people used to find out ways by which they could say no to this technology.
Yeah.
And then we had this curriculum in place that parents in themselves were selecting schools which used to offer computer education. That kind of a scenario, that kind of a policy making would definitely help if we have to progress as a country in that direction there.
Right. I mean, and that didn't come from the government or the academia there, right? I mean, it was a consumer led move in that sense, right?
So actually, I have a little bit of a, if I may just add to what Vaibhav was saying, there is a little bit. I think history is important. A lot of us, we talk about computer science and all. I think history has its own advantage. So if you go back a little bit, like you used the example of computers replacing the clerks in banks and ticket booking and stuff like that. But there are other examples as well. You go back further, people used to ride horses, right, to go from one place to another, right? And there'll be before that, of course, there'll be everywhere. There'll be more clerks doing a lot of physical paperwork and stuff like that. Every single time, the apprehension that technology is going to create problem. So what happens is a lot of people used to ride horses, but then there's limitation, right? So then, as a result, there's only so many things that people would even imagine doing, which required going from one place to another.
Of course.
The moment you have automated that, suddenly, in fact, the demand for many other types of things grows. Right, that was not imagined earlier because people were not even using; they were limiting artificially themselves. Right. Same thing with the. I read recently some article where even the banks, a lot of bank clerical staff were concerned with the automation and stuff like that. But what has happened after automation is the number of bank jobs have actually increased because the banks are not able to operate more efficiently. And as a result, they are able to open more offices, and so you multiply the less number of people with much larger number of branch network, then you still get a much more larger deployments. Right. So my larger employment. So my anticipation, even in this case, actually is that I wouldn't look so much for the government. I think for fundamental research, I agree. Of course, government needs to build institutes and stuff like that. But a lot of applications do not necessarily require that. Unnecessarily a very fundamental kind of research. We should be able to leverage. It's more like applied AI is where I believe we should invest more in. And for that, I think we just need to. I think the capitalistic economy is the right way to go about it.
I'll just add one more thing on the research side. That so while certain research, and if I take some examples as well, just about let's say our GPT, the transformers architecture that came about. If you look at that research paper was published inside Google, not inside a university. If I double click on that why is it happening? Let's say the most advanced VR technology got created inside Facebook, not inside a university, right? Because I think when it gets to very theoretical research, then often it gets very deassociated with real impact. It's then sometimes just research for the sake of research, right? On the other hand, I think apart from saying that there should be more research happening in the universities, in my opinion, deeper collaboration with industry and academia to do very applied research, which also holds itself accountable for the kind of impact and outcome it can drive.
I would like to interject here see, a company like Google or Facebook, they have an R&D budget.
Correct.
When you go out and check what is the R&D budget for AI for the leading technology companies in India, that would be very small.
Right.
Now, if we are putting the burden on companies that, hey guys, you also have to take the needle forward and you also have to solve your business problems, they would be biased towards solving their business problems.
Only one point there is, if you take a classic example of Spark, let us say. It is a open competition that is actually kept by, let's say, Yahoo or Netflix, somebody, and then there's a bunch of professor and bunch of students work together and solve that problem, and then that is how actually Apache Spark started getting built, right? But if we just think about ourselves as well, right? How often do we even academia, or let's say professors, and our
we do not interact.
is very different.
Yes.
Right now also, I have, because we know a lot of real challenges that might be happening in and around us. If there is a way to even for them to get to know this, and then actually, hey, I want to solve it, and then the grants can be given by government. Right?
Absolutely.
I have no problem.
And the brain power could come from academia, grants can come from government. But I think ultimately industry, at least guiding them, that see, these are the real problems that exist in the industry, and could there be some research to solve them?
See, again, it need not be industry per se. I mean, when we are looking from a lens of government, see, I understand that it is helpful for you to build a good algorithm that can teach people. But when you look at it from a lens of a government, their problem statement is that how do I improve the literacy rate from X to Y? How do I ensure that these villages, they have access to proper health care? In those senses, those set of projects actually can be researched well, and this is not something that a private sector company would want to do it. I mean, you would want to build those algorithms, you would want to tune those algorithms that suits your business model. I mean, to be honest, it is immature for us to expect our companies to actually start developing solutions which would impact the larger masses.
Vaibhav, I think the point there which Ramesh was trying to make is that, because industry has their ear to the ground, there is a way of conveying and informing decisions that can happen. I mean, Ramesh, I'm curious because you said you've got operations in 2,500 odd towns.
No, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. So I'm just curious. When you actually listen in to retailers, for example, and get a sense of what is the sense of apprehension that they have about technology today, especially with AI and
See, I would say I think that is our perception that they have an apprehension. If you just think about it, they are the same retailers who are using UPI, nobody taught them.
Yeah.
And time to time we say that they are not tech savvy and they can't use it. We are shifting the blame from our side to their side. We did not make a software that is as intuitive as possible for them. And if at all we make the software that is intuitive, they will be. Even retailers right now, if you think about it, right? When 2015 when we started, we said that we will take only digital orders only. There are no, because traditionally overall this potential business runs on somebody going on the ground, a foot on street, and they will take orders with the belief that retailer can't place order, but we challenged that, and when we saw that right now also, right, as in they use multiple apps, right? That is a journey that they have gone through. Further, right, we need to understand them more deeply, and let us say we need to be vernacular first on day one, right? So if that is a requirement, and vernacular first, right, people will use it in Kannada, and then they will use it.
so as long as you add value, basically is the
value add and make it very simple. Right now also biggest problem I think I keep on talking about, right, saying that search right now also is an unsolved problem for majority of the India. Like who will type? As in that too, our search systems are very tuned for English. And if somebody want to type in this English or let us say even a Kannada, what are those systems that are going to be? I mean, are there?
They even don't have a keyboard for that.
And they have never. A lot of users have never learned to type.
Right, that's fair. Right, as in, but a voice technology. That is why we have wanted to invest in voice technology since last 3 years. But thankfully now, I would say, biggest thing in natural language translation and speech to text capabilities have actually improved quite a lot. That is the biggest jump in the last 2 years if you just think about it, right?
So maybe start small thing here. So some of these fundamental things that he mentioned, if these could actually be driven at our, let's say, research institutes or at a common intelligence center, that could massively benefit each one of us in this
See,
room.
but I would say, I will take a simple example. 2009, I was part of IBM Intel. Speech to text was my project, but I don't know what happened to this. 2009 is the time where we were talking about same problem. My project was take a railway ticket booking through phone call. They will speak something, you translate it and book it, right? And that's the thing. But if you just think about it, right, that is an IR that does it.
Right.
This is that we are doing it. But if industry itself is not able to do it, right now I'm very sure that some other academia for sure will be solving this problem. But just that the constraints of it and let us say the real requirements of it, they might not be knowing it.
Right.
As similar, they might be solving for English or Hindi, but English, as you mentioned, right?
Right.
Or for a different keyboards or voice, right? They might not be solving for that.
Right.
So how do you bridge this gap is where all of that particular beauty lies. But I would say that in general, retailers or anybody, right?
Right.
Want to use software, if that is solving their problem, right? Why would they not use it?
Right. Sarang, is that something that you also noticed because healthcare is something that affects everybody, right? Ensuring access to all, and what are the challenges that you've noticed in terms of, say input, say some of the conversations that we have had so far?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we also have, for example, Practo also has one sort of non-profit subsidiary that we have launched a couple of years back in COVID, and it's called Practo where we work with underprivileged and rural people of rural background, right, to provide them accessible healthcare. And I think some of these challenges are definitely seen there, right? So one, of course, language is a big barrier there, right? Because again, in urban India, we are very English focused. The moment you just step out of the big top 10 cities, 15 cities, right? I think it's, if you're only English, then it's going to be very difficult to take any technology, be it AI or to these masses. So one is, of course, language is definitely one barrier there. I think the other barrier is also awareness, right, on what can be done with various technologies, right? So, for example, I remember during COVID, when we had just launched this Practo Seva project, right? What we wanted to do was we wanted to say, okay, we have teleconsultation, and during COVID, a lot of people will be falling sick, and they will not have easy access to healthcare. So maybe you can just give them a phone number where they can call and they can do a teleconsultation, right? But making them well, of course, everyone in the cities knew that what is teleconsultation, how does it work, etc. The first time we figured out was, they could not grasp the concept of teleconsultation, right? Because they had not experienced it. So the awareness was quite lacking, and I think we were also at fault because we were not telling them what this is in terms that they could understand. Right? There's a doctor at the end of the call, you're just talking to a doctor, and the doctor is listening to a problem and then giving you a solution, right? And, we tend to speak a lot of jargon, a lot of tech language, right? So I think simplifying, as Ramesh said, simplifying technology for the masses, I think that's the biggest challenge if you want to reach. And harking back to your previous question, if we want that technology to be accessible by all,
right.
I think simplifying that technology is the fundamental challenge.
Right.
Just adding to the government question, right? I just thought of one point. I think the government is at its most productive when it is solving, I think, more broader ecosystem challenges, right? I think, for example, UPI is a great example where they solved a challenge which was, they did not say, okay, how do I enable online transactions for a particular industry or for a particular, through a particular method, how do I give credit card to all? They said, okay, how do I just ensure that anyone can send money to anyone else? And then everything else got built on top of it, which was not something they would have thought of, which are all the different ways in which UPI get used, etc. Right? So I think similarly, one thing government should probably solve for when it comes to AI, right, is the hardware infrastructure. Because I think that is what the limiting factor is for any country which wants to do AI research. And if you look at it, right, like USA, China, and everyone is trying to ensure that they have full access to chip making technology, right? And they are sort of almost ready to go to war over Taiwan because that's where most technology is right. So I think government should definitely focusing on that. I'm sure they're probably focusing on that as well. But that's definitely one thing that can get solved.
When it comes to each one of you, right, I want to hear one thing that you've done great, you feel, in terms of ensuring AI for all, and one thing you could have done better when you started.
Right. We recently built few products which internally we call as companion. The idea of companion is that when any of the learner on our platform, when they're studying, it's sitting right there. Let's say if I'm writing code, it can see all the code that I'm writing and can have a conversation with me. It can give me nudges, it can give me hints, not give me the solution, right? Interestingly, the companion even be empathetic to you. It can encourage you. If you say that I'm failing too low today, I'm not able to solve this, it can give you, kind of keep you on track.
Right.
What we already see is that we kind of ran some A/B tests, right? That people who are learning with this, a peer supporting you versus someone who is just, let's say, attending the class and then doing the assignments. The people who are learning with companion show almost 60% better learning outcomes. So on a certain frequency, we do certain assessments. So pretty early, strong signal that this dynamics, that I have someone sitting next to me who is expert in this field, what I'm learning, and like 24/7 I can have a conversation with the person.
Right.
Definitely has a huge impact.
Right.
Second is, I think, another thing that I think most of the people who are teachers like me now complain a lot about, that with all the plus sides, there are also downside of GPT, that you give an assignment to your students and they will just do it using GPT, and everyone has submitted perfect solution, right? This is something that we were trying to solve, that at one hand I would never want to discourage students from using these GPT-like tools, because definitely that's the coming edge. It's like banning calculators in the school. You can't, right? But at the same time, how do you force them to learn? Not just copy-paste from GPT,
How do
right?
you find the balance?
I think on that, while we are building certain solutions, but not fully solved yet.
Right.
In the very beginning, I was talking about this tool that we have built that I was testing out in the morning, right? That interviewer. So I said that instead of asking them to write code, I would say your assessment is have a conversation with this bot. The bot will explain it to me. You just don't have to write the code, explain it to me. And the bot can judge you whether your explanations are accurate or not. This is something I think will evolve, we'll get better at it, but we are still iterating.
Vinay, one good thing, one thing that could have been better.
So I want to understand the context of that question, in the sense that, like, in terms of AI or in terms of like product?
In terms of ensuring AI for all, right?
AI for all, yeah. I think so. I'll have to think really hard about what else we can do, because when I have time, I think about like all of us, right? Hundreds of problems in the world that need to be solved. So clearly, all of us can feel like we have not done enough. But at the same time, I think what we like to do. I mean, again, a lot of entrepreneurs here. I'm one of the founding members here at Netradyne. We always also want to take a step back and say how far we have come from where we started. So you need to keep reminding that, otherwise you'll get bogged down by what all you have not done. Having said that, so in terms of talking about our area, and of course when you talked about the assistants, coding assistants, that's more like a common thing for all of us, right? We are trying to encourage more and more of our developers. So, but I'll not go in that side because he covered already. In terms of the problem statement that we have tried to solve, which is making roads safer, that's our vision statement, right? We want to make sure that nobody loses their life because of a road accident, right? So clearly, we have made a lot of progress. I said a lot of customers who have used our product, and our product works well in US, works well in India, works well in UK, we are in Canada, Mexico, in many countries. There are certain unique aspects, of course, of India versus other countries. But when you look at that's only on the scenery on the road. But when you look inside the cab, like when you're driving, a person looking at the phone will be similar. A person drowsy will be similar. A person not wearing seatbelt will be similar, and stuff like that. So we believe we have made a lot of progress, but we have a lot more to do. I don't believe that we are anywhere close to getting done. Eventually, of course, the world will very likely, eventually, and I don't know how many years or decades, human drivers will not be there. But I think that that's several decades away. I don't think there's like 1 to 5 years,
Sure.
right? In fact, there'll be an interesting problem very soon where human drivers and machines will need to work with each other,
Coexist.
right? And if you're driven in India, of course, you'll solve all problems. I think people in developed countries will have bigger challenges.
Right.
So yeah, I think, and the second part is the anytime you say AI for all, I think cost is an important part. So we are always looking at how do we drive down the costs. But clearly, of course, we are dependent on the ecosystem and variety of things. So yeah, I mean, lowering the costs and making it more and more accessible, like broadly, I think are the two things that we believe we can do better. But we have come a long way at the same time.
Right. Vaibhav?
So something that we are really happy about is on the mapping infrastructure that we have been able to build in. Using the historical data points that we have been able to understand the local nuances of each of the address and get to a pinpoint location there. So nuances like Vidyarthi Bhavan could be written by Vidyarthi, all those things are captured. Some people, there is no defined pattern of how you write an address in India.
Right.
Some may write locality first, landmark first, and so on in a jumbled manner as well. I think what we are happy about is that this engine we have been able to build in, and I mean, we look forward to maybe exposing it to the larger community as well, because this is, we believe, a fundamental problem. If this problem set is solved, then a lot more people can actually build solutions on top of it. What we feel that we haven't been able to spend more time into is on the last 100 meter of that last mile. So now this is a very urban area specific problem. See, you could get the lat long of where a particular society is, but as a delivery partner, it becomes very difficult to identify, let's say, where is E108? In this society, where is Tower E? And 108 means 10th floor or first floor. Those disambiguation also exist. And when you look at the space that is coming up, wherein we are expecting deliveries to happen in 10 minutes, this is more on the side of the delivery partners, how to make their life easier so that they are able to navigate to that last 100 meter journey. So yeah, that is where we would want to spend more time, haven't been able to solve it or spend sufficient bandwidth there.
Right. Ramesh?
Sure. So we go back to our customers and what problems that we are solving for them, right? So we are trying to be the gateway for the overall urban mass consumption for food and grocery through retailers, right? So what are the primary problems for the retailers? They have catchment of, let's say, 500 meters to 1 kilometer, in which customers come and actually expect some products. The selection is a very important piece, what products to keep, and then that need to be available, right? So when customers come, they should be able to serve. To procure all of this, they require a working capital support, and we should be able to drive more and more customers to Kira. Right? They are the primary problems. If everything is happening, then yes, I think we have profitable and most efficient like supply chain or let's say food and grocery distribution. Right? So in all of it, one good thing that we have done was we responsibly used AI wherever it is actually required, because we undermine the importance of the impact statistics also can actually create, because for many rule engine itself is a solution. For some, when number of variables are increasing and they require weights, probabilistic solution of statistics is important. Then comes AI, and then comes, let's say, your deep learning and RNN, etc. Right? So we were able to understand it better and then use the right tool for the right job. And across the selection and overall, to make sure that availability is there, the complete supply chain and logistics that we have built in a wafer thin margins that B2B has, the overall business, right? So it need to be utmost cost effective. And that would not have been possible without all of these investments in good demand predictions, or let us say replenishment systems that we have actually created, or bin packing algorithms that we have created in warehouse, how do we pack all of them. And in general, how we are running the processes with routing and everything else. Right? So, and the same thing goes with even the how do you provide the right selection of the customer. We require, because every catchment is very different, and what is selling in the locality is something that is very important for them. How do we understand all of them, and then how do we actually provide these inputs to a user? At the same time, working capital grid, that where we were able to underwrite responsibly because of the data that we have, and where we are able to achieve best NPA at this point, 3% NPA in the institute. So there is a very good NPA. And last but not the least, still, that is a place where we have a long, long way to go. How do we help retailers modernize themselves and engage their customers better? There's a lot of technology intervention that is still required there, right? Because, simple example, right? So the retailer can still not communicate to their customers about the offers that they are running, or let us say that fresh vegetables are coming. That is a manner in which they are working before even AI and ML, right? So even the data generation and data integration itself is a primary step, but there is a lot more to do inside the store as well. And the biggest blocker for all of this, one thing that I see is that in this 600 billion food and grocery market, right? So from the time where source of brands, the goods are actually coming in, till it reaches consumer. When we started, there is no data point, but right now there is some data points. But just imagine still supply and demand, the feedback loops are very longer, because right now brand is producing some batch that will go out. They don't have any clue like where, how exactly it is getting distributed. That might be consumed by the consumer. Just imagine if this data silos or let's say data integration problems are solved, then the true power of AI will come. That is where AI have to play a role in making sure that this digitization also happens. Because simple example being this, them being able to express through voice might be the way some of the digitization might be coming.
Of course.
Right now, just imagine that for a brand, what is my presentation in a catchment for them to know? And Nielsen need to generate a very report with a very, very smaller sample. But if my vision technologies become more richer, all it takes is, right now we are running a pilot where take a store photo and identify all the possible products inside a store, right? Just imagine if at all I'm able to do it very efficiently with a cost, without burning a lot of cost. That is where right now we need to still figure out a lot. And if we are able to find, just imagine like the few lakhs of retailers that we have, within seconds I literally know what exactly the product that is there, what is selling, what is not selling, help retailers with what they should be stocking up, tell brands saying that where, what is actually selling, right? So that way, how can we use AI and ML to generate data first and remove all the data barriers and then kick in all the efficiencies so that demand will be able to tune the supply, supply will be able to do the demand.
Right.
That is where I think there is a lot to do, and that is where we need to focus on.
Sarang,
I think one thing we have done well is we introduced patient stories on our platform 2015-16 initially. Of course, there was a lot of resistance from doctors, but I think over time, doctors understood that this is helping patients, right? And what we have been able to do using AI is that we have been able to catalog them, categorize them. What is this patient story about? What was the disease this patient was suffering from? And then from backwards to that, we are able to say, okay, this doctor is really good at solving this particular problem. This doctor is. So I think we have been able to build a very powerful search on the base of those few million patient stories that we have right on our platform, right, which really we think helps improve health outcomes for a lot of people. I think one thing we have not done well so far, and we are now trying to work on is the language problem that we have. So our teleconsultation platform, for example, based on the doctors who are online at a given moment and which languages they speak, we give the users an option that, okay, you can choose one of these languages and then we will match you with a doctor who speaks the language of your choice. But again, we are constrained by, if at a given moment, India being such a diverse country, right? If at a given moment we don't have someone who speaks, let's say, Odia or Telugu or whatever language at that point, right? Because I think we have around, 30 specialities. So, and then we have maybe another 30-40 languages that are spoken in the country. So, you need at any given moment like 900 or 1,000 different combinations. Right? Doctor speaks, neurologist who speaks all 30 languages, whether dermatologist. So, I think that's one thing that while we are able to show, okay, these are the doctors who are online, like this is the language we use, but we are not always able to find a doctor who speaks the language you are most comfortable in, right? And so again, that becomes a problem for everyone, apart from young, educated, urban consumer, right? Because we default to English. If we are not able to find the language of your choice, then we just default to English because probability-wise, in a diverse country like ours, probability that only two people speak one common language, that's English is the highest probability, and
right.
Unfortunately,
right.
So I think that's one thing that we feel AI can definitely solve for.
Right.
Which can really make it easy for two people who speak different languages to understand each other.
Actually, it's even more interesting because it's not only whether you know or not. There's a gradation as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a lot of people you interact with, they can speak like certain sentences, certain words, and some communication they can have in English. But then beyond a point that they will not be able to.
And when it comes to healthcare, right, you're describing your symptoms. You may not know the exact word in English.
Yeah.
Right? But you know in your local language. Right?
It would turn out to be negative if you miss
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
I think just to wrap up, the beauty of the problem, right, is that the variety of the problems that you guys are solving is, the AI enables you to solve each of them and each of them well. The pattern that I'm seeing is from this conversation is that there are a few overarching problems that need to be solved, and that is where a larger sort of an effort from academia, from industry, and from the government should come together. And I think the UPI example is a great one because once you solve for that enables everything to attain scale, and that's where AI for all can become more of a reality. Thank you all for joining us today. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.